Hello, good afternoon. I'm Donna with Aging Advantage, and here we are today presenting you with another educational opportunity to make connections with local resources that could help with food, housing, or isolation struggles post-pandemic. And today we have Miss Polly, who's going to go ahead and share some great opportunities and things with you guys. Go ahead, Miss Polly.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm sitting here on this rainy afternoon. I've got my cup of tea with me, and I'll introduce and tell you a little bit more about myself. My name is Polly Lemeir, and my company is called Thrive After 65. I am a certified tiny habits coach, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a second or two. And today I am here to talk to you about the power of thinking tiny when it comes to caregiving and taking care of yourself as a caregiver. As a tiny habits coach, what I do is I specialize in showing older adults and caregivers or anybody who wants to create behavior change in their lives how to take advantage of the latest discoveries from the field of neuroscience to create more resilience, more self-confidence, and definitely a sense of satisfaction with everyday life. That's what I specialize in. On the other hand, after I retired from my career, which was in sales and marketing and personal development and that type of thing, after I retired, more than a decade, was a professional caregiver for in many different situations, from hospice to companion care and that type of thing. And I also walked with two of my family members through terminal illnesses. So caregiving and caregivers are very close to my heart. And when Donna talked to me about this program that she was doing, I just jumped in right away because any way that I can help a caregiver get through what I went through myself, which is it's a wonderful, how would I say, it is something that is so greatly needed and so appreciated, but it is also a can be a very long and lonely and tough voyage to go on as a caregiver, especially to a family member who might be seriously ill or has a disability. So today, what I want to share with you is just some new ideas about the whole idea of caregivers and caregiving and how to take good care of yourself. And I'm going to start off by pointing out two of the problems with advice that most people give to us as caregivers. So the first problem that now that I know what I know, the first problem that I see is often people will come up to us as caregivers and they'll say, "Oh, you need to take time for yourself. You need to take a respite. You need to go on vacation. You need to escape everything, get away." Well, that's true, and that's very nice. And I'm not putting that down. It's wonderful when we can go to a movie or take a vacation or go to the zoo or the botanical gardens and just take a respite from our responsibilities. The problem is that doesn't change our responsibilities, and we are still going back to the very situation that we're taking the respite from. Not only that, but often in order to take a little break, we have to do a whole bunch of other arrangements in order for there to be a substitute and for everything else to be taken care of while we're gone. So while that seems like a really good idea for caregiving, it's a very short-term kind of solution. And then there's the other aspect of advice that we get as caregivers. People will say, well, what you need is you need to exercise. You need to drink more water, 64 ounces a day or whatever it is. And you need to exercise and make sure you have time for social connection with other people and all these kinds of big advices. And it's well-meaning and well-intentioned. But there's a big problem with that. When we ask people to start exercising, to get more rest, to do some more socializing or do any of those kinds of things, we are asking people caregivers to create a behavior change. And why is that so difficult? Well, just think back to last January 1st. Have you ever tried making a New Year's resolution? A New Year's resolution is a behavior change. It's where we are wanting to exercise more, as an example. So we start exercising, and then all of a sudden there's a big snowstorm comes and it interrupts our progress. And then maybe we slip and we fall and we say, oh, well, that's it. I can't do it. This is too much. It's the same thing with going on a diet. If going on a diet was so easy, all of us would be skinny. I certainly would be. But behavior change is a very tricky thing. For one thing, we tend to depend on motivation or self-discipline. And those things are short-term friends. As soon as the snowstorm comes, or as soon as it's our birthday and our mother bakes a special cake for us and we're on a diet, all that discipline and all that willpower goes out the window. And then what do? We look on ourselves as failures and we give up. So when we are asking caregivers to do this for yourself and do that for yourself, remember that's a behavior change. And what I have found as a tiny habits coach, and that I do in my workshops and coaching with people, what I found is the biggest thing that we can do as caregivers for ourselves is forget about making big changes and focus on tiny habits instead. Tiny things, tiny sustainable things that we can do for ourselves. So how would this look in real life? You might be asking yourself, what do you mean by tiny habits? Well, a tiny habit is just a small activity that is triggered or tied into a behavior that we are already doing, and it's very tiny. So just as an example, let's play a little game here. I want you to pretend that all of a sudden somebody has gifted you with your own personal butler or lady in waiting, whatever you want to, a personal assistant. That personal assistant is there for you 24/7. And this is what that personal assistant could do for you. We'll just sort of paint a picture of the beginning of the day. When you get up in the morning, your slippers and your robe are already ready for you, and you walk into the kitchen, and the kitchen is all cleaned up. Somebody has actually set out the breakfast things on the table. And on that table is a journal and a pen and maybe even a candle or something for you to have some quiet, self-reflective time with so that you can plan your day, so that you can get grounded and just be in touch with where you are and how you're feeling and make a plan for the day and set an intention for the day. And then after breakfast, you go back to your room and you're ready to get dressed. You don't have to worry about your clothes because the clothes are already laid out for you. And when you go back into the kitchen or the rest of the house, everything that you need for caregiving is already set up. Not only that, but you don't carry around any worries about emergency trips because by the front door, you know your keys are going to be there. You absolutely know that your car is always gassed up. It's ready. If there's any kind of an emergency, you can take whoever you're caring for to the doctors or whatever appointments are necessary. And you have a little self-care toolkit right there that's always ready to go. It has all the medication listings and all those kinds of things in it. And now for me, it would have a trashy book in there that's completely silly and funny and romantic. Something while I'm waiting around in doctors' offices or emergency rooms, something to keep me busy, and a bunch of power bars or some kind of non-perishable food because you never can tell when you might end up in some kind of a situation where you haven't had time for lunch or dinner, and there you are waiting in an emergency room or a medical situation or that type of thing. So all these things, these little things have been done for you. And wouldn't you feel pampered? That's what tiny habits are. And instead of the butler, the person who's doing these things for you is you. You're the one who's doing them. So, what exactly is a tiny habit? It is a formula that was developed at Stanford University by the Behavior Change Lab and the work of Dr. B.J. Fogg. And if you've heard anybody talk to you about atomic habits or little steps or baby steps, all the research for that was done at Stanford. And what they found is that when you attach small behaviors to pre-existing things that you're already doing, you don't need a prompt like a sticky note, or you don't need your phone, because those things are so easy to just ignore. Instead, you attach that behavior to already existing behavior. So a tiny habit would be after I get out of bed, I will go take a shower and I'll do maybe one push up or something like that, or I'll march in place. Or it might be before I turn out the lights in the kitchen at night, I will set up the table for breakfast so that everything is already ready. It might be a tiny habit like every Thursday, I will fill up the car with gas. So even if it's half full, I will still keep it full so that I just know every Thursday the car is going to be full and it's ready to go. There's no last minute rush for getting gas when I'm in an emergency situation. It could be a tiny habit like as soon as I walk in the door, I'll put my keys in a special place. So the keys are already there. I'll just share with you how I started one of my first tiny habits back 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. My first, my first tiny habit was about my cat's brush. I have a long-haired cat. Her name is Princess Leia, and she is a princess, and she loves to be brushed. My bad habit was that whenever I would brush her, I would just put down the brush wherever I happened to be and she happened to be. So every morning I was frantically rushing around looking for the hairbrush. My first tiny habit that I ever learned was when I finish brushing Princess Leia, I will put the brush over on the sideboard in the dining room because that's in the middle of my apartment. And that way I always, and it was such a relief just to know it was always there. No more frantic running around. So if you look at your own life, just look at the little places, those little irritations, those little places where things get scrambled, where you forget something or you wish you had something. Those are the places to create tiny habits. So all you need to do is look at that little place and look at what new habit you'd like to create and attach it to existing behavior. So after I brush the kitty, I will put the brush away in a specific place. All right. After I finish the dishes at night, I will set the table and get out everything that I need for breakfast. It could be before I go to bed at night. I will leave my journal out so I have time to write and have a little quiet time in the morning. Just look at all those little tiny places where you could do something really nice for yourself. So that's the essence of what a tiny habit is. When you're doing a tiny habit, it doesn't take a whole lot of motivation or self-discipline because there's a secret sauce. So that's the next thing I'm going to tell you about. A secret sauce. It's the thing that wires new behaviors into your brain. So what's the secret sauce? It's called celebration. And this is what we mean. When your brain experiences some form of celebration. Like today, well, I think today is the Cardinals. It's the opening game, and everybody's all excited. So when your brain is experiencing celebration, it says, "Yes, I want to do it again." So an example, when I put my when I brush the kitty cat and I put the brush down, I don't just walk away. I say, "Yay! I did it. I did what I said I was going to do." As silly as that sounds, that is probably the most important piece of advice that I could give you this afternoon. You know, being a caregiver, there are a million little things that you do that nobody else sees that you do, that nobody else is standing around and cheering for you. And it's time to learn to be your own cheerleader, not only for your own morale, but because it is your emotions that create new habits. Let's just go back as to, I'm going to give you an example of why it is that celebration and cheering for yourself is so important. What science has found is that we used to think that if you're going to create a new habit or a new behavior, what you'd have to do is do it for 21 days, or you have to give yourself a reward and keep giving yourself a reward to do the new behavior. What science has found, especially the field of neuroscience, where we're studying the brain, is that the brain responds and wants to recreate behavior when there's a feeling of celebration that's going on. Just look at a little baby. Have you ever seen a little baby take its first steps? Maybe you've been the parent of that baby who took the first steps, or perhaps you've just seen it on YouTube or on social media. But when that baby takes those first steps, what do the parents do? Or whoever's around? They go, yay, took your first step. Oh, we're so excited. Look at what little Susie is doing. She's taking her first steps. We get all excited. And what happens to the baby's brain? The baby's brain just lights up and it releases dopamine, which is a special hormone. And that hormone makes the brain want to do it again. So one example would be baby takes first steps. Baby is going to fall down many, many times. But baby keeps going because cheerleaders are around and encourage that baby to keep on going. Makes sense, doesn't it? So that's why it's important for you to start cheering yourself on, especially when you're creating a new habit. So if your new habit is before I turn out the lights at night, I'll make sure the kitchen is picked up and everything's out for breakfast. And I'll say, yes, I did it. Yay for me. But more importantly, as cheerleaders, we need to be cheering ourselves because many times there's nobody around to acknowledge all the things that we are doing that people just don't see. And that's what can make caregiving sometimes a very lonely job. I can remember taking care of my husband, and we were at a family event. Oh, it was somebody's family event of some sort. It was probably Christmas, or no, I think it was Easter. And things were pretty serious at that time. And of course, everybody's focus was on my husband. Someone walked up to me and said, well, how are you doing? And I about burst into tears because nobody had asked me that. And I think that's one of the, how would I say, one of the loneliest burdens to carry is that you're doing all these things, but there's nobody standing around when you're up in the middle of the night checking on somebody. There's nobody saying, yay for you, you did all the pills and you fixed everything up just right. You have to become the cheerleader. And so when you want to start these new habits, it's important, the secret sauce, the biggest secret sauce, the secret recipe is to start becoming your own cheerleader for the tiny things. Not for the big things, for the tiny steps that you take that are putting self-care into your daily life. Don't wait for big changes or for big things. Look for the small things. After I finish the dishes, I will set up the table for breakfast. Or before I go to bed at night, I will lay out my clothes. Or after I brush my teeth, I will make sure my journal is out and ready for me. Those little tiny steps and celebrating that you did what you said you were going to do is what can get you through a day, as chaotic as it might be. You can get to the end of the day and look back on your day and say, well, at least I kept these promises to myself. And at least there was a bunch of times where I was mentally saying, yay, I did it. I did what I said I was going to do. We got through the doctor's appointment. We got home safe and sound. Yay, we made it to the bathroom and back and nobody fell. All of those there's a million times when you could be cheering for yourself during the day. But more important than that is the fact that on top of it, you can get through the day with some sense of closure. Because for such a long time, for most of us, if you're a long-term caregiver, the days go by and there's always more to do. There's never a sense of closure. There's never a sense of accomplishment. So you have to give yourself that accomplishment. And when you give yourself that accomplishment, your self-esteem goes up, your self-confidence goes up, you feel better about yourself, and you feel more grounded and better able to handle all your other responsibilities. So, my advice to you would be number one, look for the little irritations in your life and look for what you could do to create a small habit that would take care of that difficulty, the forgetting of the keys or rushing out the door and having to go back in because you forgot things or getting to the end of the day and feeling like it's just a never-ending sense of not having control. You can have more control. You can take better care of yourself, but do it with the little things. And most important of all, make sure you celebrate every little thing you do because that's what will rewire your brain. What will give you more self-confidence. And most especially, it will also give you new habits that will stick with you and you won't abandon so that you can be the best you can be for the person you're taking care of. And you can still have a satisfying life despite the fact that you're being a caregiver in a situation where possibly at any moment things could go one way or another way, or your whole day can change on a dime. So that's my basic advice as a tiny habits consultant. I do workshops, I do personal coaching, and if you want to reach out to me and just get a list of tiny habits for caregivers, I'd be happy to send that to you. You can just get in touch with Aging Advantage, and they'll pass on my information to you. So if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Well, thank you very much. That was so awesome. Um, really good information. Because as a caregiver or just sometimes I even say mom, just a person living, um, you need those breaks. And we look at them as being such a big thing. So that's why a lot of times we'll put it off and put it off. But if we look at it, like you say, start tiny, start small, then that then will allow us to start taking and doing self-care and allowing you
Especially when you
to,
add celebration to it. That's the key.
yes,
It's not
yes,
just
yes,
turning out
yes.
the light and saying, it's not saying, I'm going to clean the kitchen before I turn out the light. It's, I'm going to clean the kitchen. Yes, I did it. Yay for me. I did what I said I was going to do all the time.
Exactly.
That's it. That's
Sticking.
a habit in itself. And what you know, it's, especially as women,
Uh-huh.
we have been taught and brought up to think, well, it's not nice to call attention to yourself.
I know. Yeah.
And so I know that at first it's going to sound a little, how would I say, you're going to be a little self-conscious doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But even if all you do is just say, darn it, I did what I said I was going to do. Good for me.
Yes.
Just a head nod, just go back to Cassius Clay. Why was Cassius Clay so good? Muhammad Ali, sting like a bee, and so on and so on. He said,
Oh
I am
yeah,
the
that's it.
greatest. I'm the
That's it.
greatest.
Yep. The
That's what we
habits.
all need. We
That's
all need
it.
it. And we have been taught, especially as women, we've been
Yeah.
taught to sort of stifle ourselves,
Yep.
not call attention to ourselves,
Yep.
and just, be the quiet one and so on and so forth.
Right. And take care of everybody else. And, then what's left, you get it, and most
Right,
of the time it's crumbs, if
right.
if anything at all, or we just keep moving, and don't worry about ourselves, But I think with doing that, that causes caregiver burnout a lot quicker and
Exactly.
easier.
Exactly. Because we are constantly living, with incompletion.
There you go.
We
Absolutely.
rarely get that satisfaction in regular life as a caregiver of I did it. It's done. It's all wrapped up in a nice big. We don't get that. It's
Nope.
always another thing, always another thing. So you have
Something
to start
else.
with yourself,
Yes.
giving yourself that sense of completion. I did what I said I was going to do. I really think that just that fact that you are keeping little promises to yourself
Yes.
can be
That's
life
good.
changing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because the question was asked to me recently, what is the biggest, what do you believe has been your biggest, I guess, accomplishment, if I'm wording it right? Something where around that, well, it was in a setting in the room, and people would say my grandkids or my kids, but what the leader of the instruction, the instructor was looking for is for somebody to say myself.
Yeah.
Nobody acknowledged themselves. And he was like, so you don't love yourself? And everybody kind of looked like, wow, I never thought about it like that because we're always putting somebody else in front of self. And so I don't look at myself for being grateful. I think that's what it was. One of the most things you're grateful for, or something like that, you know. And I am grateful for myself. I am happy for myself, just how God fearfully and wonderfully made me the
That's
person
right.
I am. I am satisfied with me. But there are times and instances that I too get where I'm just like, enough is enough. I need some me time. I need to refresh. I need something that's going to keep me motivated and keep going. So I'm going to be more conscious of the small things,
Tiny
accomplishing the
things,
small
tiny
steps
steps.
and cheering myself on when I do those small steps, because
Yes,
that is
because the whole
great.
idea is that if you do these things, then you are taking care of yourself within the context of caregiving.
Yes.
Most of us think the only time we can take care of ourselves is outside the caregiving. So, what you really need to do is find ways to sustain yourself in this environment of being a caregiver
Okay.
instead of waiting till the caregiving is done or our duties are finished and then we're going to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, that's true. I like that. That's absolutely
Yeah.
true. Just taking a little small break or step sometime just to do what's necessary for you. Pay attention, when your body or brain is telling you, this is
Mhm.
an opportunity just for a quick little break, just
Yeah.
something, small. Do it
Mhm.
for yourself.
And what I can do is I can write out just some samples of tiny
Oh,
habits for caregivers. I will
okay.
send them to you, and then
I
if
will
anybody requests them,
share. Yes, that would be
you can send them
awesome. Okay. That'd
just
be
as
great.
a Word document or something.
Okay.
I'd be
All
happy to
right.
do that.
Sounds great. I appreciate
But
that. And I'm
it's
sure others will
tiny is
too.
mighty. Tiny is
Yes,
mighty.
that is absolutely true. That was great. That was
And
so awesome.
celebrating is
That
important. And I've got red for the Cardinals today. Let's hope
that's
we.
right. Look, I got you probably can't hardly see it, but I got made sure I put on
Oh,
my
I see. Oh,
Cardinal
yes, I
shirt
do. I see your
today.
Cardinals. Good. That's good.
My little red bowl. I'm trying
Yeah.
to help
Yeah.
celebrate. There it goes, somebody else, but that's okay. It helped me to feel good to put it on, knowing that
Yeah.
I I have the mindset to be able to do any kind of celebration today. It's good.
Right. 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 Right.
It's great.
Right.
Lee, did you have anything? I'm not sure if Rachel. No, Rachel's not. I don't think
Okay.
she's on with us.
Um, I don't have anything, but I was just thinking, man, this is also, I have a toddler and we're about to start potty training. So, some of the celebrations might be helpful
Yes.
there
You
too.
know exactly what I'm. That's
Yep.
exactly what I'm talking. That's what it's emotions that create new behaviors. That's one of the biggest, that was just mind blowing to me when I first came across that. It's emotions. And that celebration and self-reinforcement is what is going to create the perfect potty training
Yes. Yes.
or the habit of Before you turn out the lights, you set everything up for breakfast. Or before you leave, you make sure that everything is that you have your emergency kit ready to go.
Yes, in
Or
place.
any of those self-care things.
That's it. Helping to prepare yourself, because that's true. When you prepare better, I think the better off you are in the motion of doing whatever you're doing. It helps you to stay on task a little better and
Right?
easier. Yep. And without being prepared, then kind of it's a
There's less
distraction.
franticness,
Yeah.
especially if you're taking care of somebody who's seriously ill.
Oh, yes.
It is like you are walking around with a red light beeping off in your head.
Yes.
You are on red alert 24/7. That really wears you down. So there has to be other things in your life that you can turn to and say, well, I did this, good for me. I did this, good for me. We made progress here. I did this, I did this. We got through the day. That gives you a sense of a completion where, on the other hand, you're dealing with constant possibilities of being out of control, of the whole day being turned upside down, which can happen.
Yes, yes, I agree. I agree, most definitely. Wow, that is really good. And it's good information for people to be able to soak in it, think about it, and apply it.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
again, we appreciate your time
Yeah.
and thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was
And
my pleasure.
you did leave your information, right? At the end, in case
Let's
somebody
see.
wants to.
My information, do you need it in writing or should I just say it
Yep,
right
you can
here?
just say it.
My company's name is Thrive After 65, and my website is Thrive After 65, no, thrive-after65.com. My name is Polly Lemeir. And you can also reach me by email at just Polly, Polly dot Lemire, Lemire at gmail.com. I'll be glad to answer questions or
Great.
give you any other information to follow up.
That is so awesome. Thank you so much again, Miss Polly. You enjoy the rest of your evening or your rest
Okay.
of your day. And hopefully we'll be seeing you around. Okay.
Yes,
Take care.
I'll be glad
Thank
to
you.
come up and I'll come up with another topic on self-care. Be glad to do it. Have a great
Great.
day.
Thank you. You too. Let me know when you're ready. See you
Okay.
soon. Bye
All right.
bye.
Thanks.